those children when they came to this country?
Yes, but the freedom of movement to
Because
work,
they're children.
the freedom of movement to work is not an unqualified right. This is really important because I think people, I'm not sure we've got this across. If you come to Britain and you can't support yourself and you can't find a job, you have to go home. And that's being strengthened under our rules. And I think it's very important because it's the freedom of movement to work. It's not the freedom of movement to claim.
Okay, take a question here and then we'll move on. Yes.
Mr. Cameron, you say that your policy that you've negotiated with Europe cannot be overruled. It can. So are you really the 21st century Neville Chamberlain waving a piece of paper in the air, saying to the public, this is what I have. I have this promise where a dictatorship in Europe can overrule it. That's a simple question. Yes or no, please?
What I can say to you is the other 27 prime ministers and presidents have agreed it. And they know if Britain votes to remain, they will implement it. And I think, look, this is not some empire and dictatorship. This is, we're proving, hang on, sir. We're proving through this referendum, right, that if Britain wants to leave this organisation, we can. We are a sovereign country. We choose to join NATO or choose to join the EU. And if we choose to leave, we can leave. But let's be clear, if we do leave, that's it. We're walking out the door, we're quitting, we're giving up on this organisation, which even if we leave, will have a huge effect on our lives, on our children, on our opportunities, on our businesses. And I don't think Britain, at the end, is a quitter. I think we stay and fight. That's what we should do. That's what we're going to do. And that's how we make the future.
You made that.
Let me say this to you. Let me make one more point. At my office, I sit 2 yards away from the cabinet room where Winston Churchill decided in May 1940 to fight on against Hitler, the best and greatest decision perhaps anyone's ever made in our country, right? Now, he didn't want to be alone. He wanted to be fighting with the French and with the Poles and the others, but he didn't quit. He didn't quit on Europe. He didn't quit on European democracy. He didn't quit on European freedom. We want to fight for those things today, and you can't win. You can't fight if you're not in the room.
All right.
You can't win a football match if you're not on the pitch.
All right. Well, let's turn to a question where you will be in the room if Britain remains. Michael Tyndale.
Thank you. Prime Minister, will you veto the accession of Turkey into the EU?
Well, I don't think it's going to happen for decades. So as far as I'm concerned, that question simply doesn't arrive. I think this is the biggest red herring in this whole referendum debate, right? I can't find a single expert anywhere in the country or in Europe that thinks that Turkey is going to join the EU in the next 3 decades. Let me explain why. To join, you've got to open and close and negotiate 35 chapters. They've done 1. At this rate, they'll join in the year 3000. So this issue doesn't arise, and I really feel strongly about this because people are getting through the letterboxes, leaflets from Leave saying, basically, Turkey's going to join the EU, not true. There's going to be a European army with Britain in it, not true. And we give £350 million a week to Brussels, not true. Now look, if we want to vote to leave this organisation, let's vote to leave it. But let's not do it on the basis of 3 things that are completely untrue.
All right, well, let's just... What you said in Turkey was, in terms of Turkish membership, I very much support that. What he's asking is, if it comes up, will you veto it?
It's not going to come up.
Well, you said in 3, it'll come up sometime. Michael Gove thinks it'll come up in our lifetimes, or his lifetime. You say it'll be 3 decades away.
I'm not going to be Prime Minister in 3 decades.
No, but what about your grandchildren? Everybody talks about their children and their grandchildren.
Well, it'll be
they will be in a world where Turkey
maybe I can give
that's why he's asking about the veto.
Right. If this was going to happen in the next couple of years, I would not support it. But it's not going to. This is about 30, 40 years' time. And I'm not going to be Prime Minister in 30 or 40 years' time. It is a red herring. As I say, if people who've decided to vote Leave, obviously, it's a choice, it's a referendum. But to do it on the basis of Turkey joining the EU, you'd be voting to leave an organisation to damage our economy on the basis of something that is not going to happen.
Okay.
And that would be a crazy thing to do.
Could you not veto it at this stage when the EU is talking about accelerating the process of accession? Why not just say, I just want the world to know I veto this.
Let me explain
Stop the
why.
discussion, no more talk.
Let me explain why. Let me explain why Britain has always been very favourable to Turkey. We want Turkey to be a Western-leaning country. We want it to be a democracy. We want it to have a rule of law. We don't want it to imprison journalists. Frankly, this is not going very well at the moment. That's why we've been positive to Turkey. But let me just say again, because for people watching at home, I don't want anyone to vote in this referendum on the basis of Turkey joining, because it's not going to happen. Just like the European army is not going to happen, just like the 350 million isn't true. I'm sure there are arguments for leaving, but those three, which are the three leading things on their leaflets, are simply not true. And it'd be a tragedy if we damaged our economy, wrecked job prospects in our country on the basis of three things that are completely untrue.
All right.
Obviously, immigration has been the most pressing issue for most people. I just wonder how much you would accept personal responsibility for austerity in the country that is fueling this, because people are concerned because they feel that there's pressure on the public services. And would you agree that's the effect of the Conservatives rather than the effect of immigration?
Well, obviously, I will defend all the things that my government's done over the last 6 years to try and get our economy back on track. And I know people will disagree with some, maybe many of the decisions, but I think it's incontrovertible that the economy is moving forward. We've created over 2 million jobs. We're beginning to see opportunities again for people in our country. And what I passionately don't want to happen, after 6 years of this and all the hard work the British people have put in, is to go back to square one. To go back to square one, to damage our economy, to put up borrowing, to see more austerity because you'd have this gap in our public finances. I think that's the worst thing for us to do to our country. We don't have to do it. We can vote for a stronger economy by voting Remain on Thursday.
But she's talking about people's earnings, and the leader of your campaign, Lord Rose, the former head of Marks and Spencer's, gave evidence and said the price of labour will frankly go up if we leave the EU. So people will be better off if we leave.
Well, that is the overwhelming majority of experts all say.
He's your leader. He's your leader.
If we leave, you see the economy suffer. And there's a very clear.
Why did he say this?
Well, if you actually look at the full context, what he said, it's much more complicated. But
not. I have it here. If you want me to, I can read it to you. I can read it to you. If free movement were to end following Brexit, is it not reasonable to suppose we could see increases in wages for low-skilled workers in the UK? Lord Rose, well, if you're short of labour, the price will frankly go up, so yes.
But then he goes on to say a whole lot of other things.
He says, but that's not necessarily a good thing. I don't know
what you've got is you've got all these independent organisations saying the economy would suffer, and they're saying it for a very good reason, which is if half of your exports go to a single market of 500 million people, if you damage your access to that market, by definition, you're going to be less well off. And we're talking about the freedom of movement. I don't want the movement of British car workers' jobs to go to the continent. I don't want the movement of people making Airbus wings to go to the continent. I don't want businesses and jobs and livelihoods to suffer, as I believe they would if we vote to leave the European Union.
Yes.
The overwhelming majority of young people want to remain in the European Union. Is it fair? Well, they do. All the polls do. All the polls do. Would it be fair on them, because they're the future, if against their will, their future's changed in this referendum?
Well, I very much hope in this referendum that people will talk across generations. I absolutely agree with you, sir. I think for young people, this is a decision they're going to have to live with for all of their lives, because I think this is irreversible. I don't think there's any way back in, as I've explained. And so I hope that young people talk to parents and grandparents and discuss what this means in terms of opportunity. Because in my view, it's clear, there are far more opportunities from staying, being in an organisation of 28 different countries, being able to live, to work, to study in different places in Europe, having the strength of numbers in order to drive the great trade deals we need. You know, our single market is a bigger market than the whole of China. It's a bigger, richer economy than the whole of America. We're going to get better trade deals if we stay in, and that'll be good for young people, good for jobs, and good for opportunity.
Paul Rossiter. A question from Paul Rossiter, please.
Hi, Paul.
Hi. Why do we have to keep subsidising poorer EU countries through our ever-increasing contribution when the NHS and certain UK industries are more deserving of these funds?
Okay, and we've only got a minute or two left, but you would agree that the figure is
The good news is
163 million pounds a week.
EU budget is going down because of the deal that I did.
8.5 billion a year, though, just to get people.
Yeah, but the point is, David, there's no saving from leaving. If you leave and your economy is smaller, and you've got fewer people in work and less taxes, there'd be a cost to leaving, and that is not just my view. That is what all of these economists are saying. So again, people who vote believing there's going to be a dividend from leaving are wrong. We're going to lose money if we leave. Now, you ask about the contributions
Subsidising
we make.
poorer countries.
We're in a single market where you've got some countries that suffered under communism.
How many European countries contribute into the EU budget, and how many take? Measure that when we first joined in 1972.
Well, France,
and today we give to a lot more than we did then.
Well, France used to be a net beneficiary. It's now a net contributor. So Britain, France, Italy, Germany, we all pay in more than we get out. But my argument, and this will be crucial when people vote on Thursday, is we get more back in terms of jobs and growth than we put in. And that is not just my view. All the people who've looked at this say, far from there being a saving from leaving, there'd be a cost to leaving. And that's why there were the proposals for the budget last week.
Okay. I'll take one more point. Be quick if you would.
Surely the deal that you put on the table, Prime Minister, is just a starting point for us. This isn't it's not black and white. This is the deal that's on the table at the moment. But surely you'd be looking for further reform as you go through Parliament to take to the EU on things like principle of freedom of movement and other issues that are obviously quite sensitive and have come up in this campaign.
Well, where you're absolutely right is that if we stay, we get reform and we can work for more reform. If we leave, reform is over. That's it. We are out, we've quit, we've walked away. And Britain does have a special status. Our membership is not like anybody else's. We're not voting on the basis of, do you want Italian membership or French membership? We're out of the euro, but we keep the pound. We're in the single market, but we've kept our borders and we don't have the Schengen no border system. We're now out of an ever closer union. This is a special status, and we should be working to enhance that. But if we vote to get out, if we vote to quit, we lose it forever.
And Question Time doesn't have any special status tonight because we've got to make way for the football. So that ends this special edition. We'll be back next Thursday, week after the vote in Preston. So I hope you'll join us then. But in the meantime, my thanks to the Prime Minister and to all of you who came here to Milton Keynes to take part. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry, we didn't really have time.